You're listening to iLiveUK, changing the way you listen to radio. iLiveUK.
Hi, this is Miss Law. Tune in to TalksHonest every Sunday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. on iLiveUK, discussing topics often thought of but never spoken. That's Sundays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on iLiveUK.
TalksHonest. TalksHonest.
Hello and welcome. You are tuned in to iLiveUK, changing the way you listen to radio. I'm your host, Miss Law, and this is a platform and an opportunity for you to discuss topics never spoken but often thought of. You can connect with us by contacting us on 0208 638 8503 or all the W's uk.iliveradio.com.
What if we spoke honestly? 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 What if we spoke honestly?
Today's topic is Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, otherwise known as OCD. This is a mental disorder which a person feels the need to perform certain routines repeatedly, otherwise known as compulsions, or has certain thoughts repeatedly, otherwise classified as obsessions. I'm not sure whether you know anyone who has OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder, but those of you who do know someone, you probably find that they are always doing things, not sitting down and relaxing. They tend to just feel the need to keep tidying or fixing or arranging things. To some people, they find that they are quite annoying at times because they don't seem to be able to sit down. But a lot of the time, a person who has OCD isn't really aware of what they're doing when they're doing it, because obviously they're not aware that they're doing something different than another person is actually doing. The person with OCD is generally unable to control either their thoughts or activity for more than a short period of time. So when they're doing what they're doing, they're not fully aware that it's not the norm, the obsession that they have, or even that compulsion that they're having. I'm not too sure how many of you have friends or family that suffer with obsessive compulsive disorder, but those of you who do will be able to identify the things that I'm talking about. Obviously, the need to constantly clean, tidy an area. Being a person that tends to suffer with OCD, I found that it's gradually got better. The reason why I say that is when I was a bit younger, I felt the need to constantly tidy up after people. Just a prime example, if someone sat in the sofa, I would feel the need, if they got up to just go to the toilet, I would need to go and puff the cushions. If I was sat in the sofa, when I got up, I would feel the need to puff the cushions even though I was going back to that seat. Another thing that I found as well, things annoyed me. For example, if something seemed out of place, that could be a row of remote controls sitting on a counter. If they weren't straight or they weren't in size order, it would kind of bug me. that I would have to get up and either put them into size order or put them well aligned. It's things being upside down, a lot of little things that another person looking at you would think, oh, what's your problem, or why do you keep doing that? But people don't necessarily say it to you. They just see you do things and just think that you're odd, you're weird, or maybe something's up. But I identified OCD as an issue for myself based on the fact that I just felt the need to clean up after someone had been somewhere, done something that was more in my living space. But as time has passed, I've felt more in control of my OCD, and I think that's got a lot to do with me not being in the environments that were solely mine. So if I went to work, I had a workspace, I could be fully in control of that workspace. However, in my colleague's workspace who was sat next to me, I had no control over it. But it did obviously affect me, because you tend to make suggestions, oh, why don't you use this, or why don't you do that? But then you learn, or should I say I've learned, that obviously I have no control over another person's space, so I tend to see it but don't see it. Now you're probably asking the question, like, how do you see it and not see it? And I think that's a lot to do with me and how I am dealing, or how I have dealt with my OCD. And I've just identified that for me, I can't be in control of something that's not mine. So therefore, I've learned over time, don't get me wrong, it has been a struggle, because obviously you're constantly in different people's environments. If you have a partner, if you're sharing a living space with somebody, if you go to a hotel, different places that you're very rarely in your own space, so to speak, that you can be in total control. And I felt the need to make a difference, or try and help myself deal with the situation. I didn't see myself or my OCD as an issue. I mean, I didn't identify myself as having OCD until maybe in my 40s. So all the time I was just doing what I was doing. I only realized when I sat down and reflected on my actions and how I did things. It wasn't the fact that someone had said something to me, it was more, oh, maybe I'm a bit picky, or I'm a bit this or that. And for some reason I just decided to look at myself and decide, oh, maybe I need to make some change, or I needed to have a look at why I was doing things. At that point I didn't identify myself as having OCD. I just considered myself as being a tidy person. I must say that people with OCD obviously have different levels of OCD. So there are some people who have control over it, and there are some people who just have no control whatsoever over OCD. From the mind of someone who has OCD, it can be a struggle at times because of your need to constantly do the things that you do. And then also when you're trying to control it, it's a completely different ball game also, because obviously if you have a disorder, for example, and having the OCD, and you feel the need to do something, but yet you're restricted from doing it because you don't have no control over that situation or that space, it can be quite frustrating to the point that you'll see something and feel the need to just walk away so it's not visually there for you to see. I earlier mentioned people with OCD tend to have common compulsions. A few of these compulsions would be washing the hands, counting things, checking to see if the door was locked, and they also struggle to actually throw things away or throw things out. That's just to name a few. There are obviously quite a few other things that possibly those of you who have been around someone who has OCD, you will be able to identify other things similar to what I'm actually expressing here. My actual question to you is, does OCD actually mean anything to someone who doesn't have OCD? It's a question I ask myself, and it's a question that many people with OCD would possibly ask themselves, for the simple reason you don't know how you're perceived unless someone tells you what you're doing from what you're not doing. So how do you feel about someone who has OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder? Do they agitate you? Do they make you feel uncomfortable? Do you express how you feel around them? Do you pull them up when they do things that don't seem normal to you? Or do you tend to just allow them to be who they are and maybe try to understand why they do what they do? See, a lot of people don't identify that they have OCD. So it's possible that you could be frustrated by someone who has something that doesn't know they have it. And that was more my finding. I often heard people say things like, oh, you can't sit still and relax, and oh, don't worry about that, oh, it's fine as it is. They say certain things that in your head don't compute. So when someone says to you something's okay, but for you mentally and visually it's not okay, it will bug you if you have OCD. So it makes it difficult to actually explain to someone who doesn't have OCD that no, it's okay for you, but it doesn't feel okay for me, because what you're seeing and what I'm seeing are two different things. Now, there's no nice way of sometimes expressing how you feel when someone is agitating you. But if you know that person has an issue or a problem, then it's down to you as an individual to probably approach that situation slightly differently. Miss Mode, is there anyone else other than myself that you know suffers with OCD or has OCD?
Yeah, I do have a friend of mine that I've known for like over 20 years, and I think because I knew her through college, and I didn't see no signs of her OCD. I think it was much later on in our like late 20s I found out that she had OCD, and the way I found out is through having conversations with her. She's like, oh yeah, I've got to clean this or do this, and I think my reaction was like, oh, you've got a lot of cleaning to do, and she said, oh yeah, it's my OCD. But I feel sometimes there are people who willingly say they have this disorder.
Okay, so like when your friend said to you that she had OCD, what did that mean to you, if anything?
Well, I knew a little bit about what OCD is, but not fully. So I knew it was you have these compulsions to do things all the time, as in, I think you mentioned before about washing your hands and you're cleaning, or you're making sure things are put a certain way, etc. So I had an idea of it, but I didn't know the extent of it, because there are some people who mildly have it, but then there's others who are kind of extreme. So yeah, I had
some understanding of what it was.
Yeah. I didn't take it as anything. I didn't treat her any way different. It's just for me to just let her do what she's doing. So when she's bleaching down the skirting boards or whatever, I'm just like, okay, cool. So that's what you're doing today, or what, you know, as part of your daily routine or whatever. So it didn't really bother me. But then with yourself, because I've known you for a long time, but I didn't know about your OCD, but I saw
signs
things that look similar to OCD.
Mm-hmm.
So where it was a thing of not keeping still, or there's something that you need to do, and like you may be able to sit down for a minute or so and then you're up doing something, or you want to find something to do.
Yeah.
So then it kind of clicked, and I thought, you know what, let me just ask her anyway, because I'm not being rude, but I just wanted to know if it was. So that's why I was like, do you have OCD? And then he was like, yeah, and kind of laughed a bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, because I was saying to you, yeah, I can see the signs.
Yeah.
But then obviously we were sitting there talking about it, because I don't know a lot about it. I just know probably just the basics of what OCD is, but it was very interesting, and I was very intrigued to find out how you got OCD. Was it something that you've had all your life, or did it just come just one day and then now it's just here? And like, how does it affect you as a person in your daily life? And you know, I was just intrigued to find out, because I want to learn. I don't want to be someone who's going to be ignorant and mock the person. I just wanted to just learn about it, because knowing that I've got another friend who has the disorder, I know how to deal with it, basically. So if I see you moving about or you're fixing something, I know that's what you're doing. It's not gonna be like me sitting there like, what's she doing now? Like, you know, can't she sit still? You know, all those things where other people would say that because they haven't been informed or want to learn about what it is.
So, like, obviously you've identified something in me because you know somebody who did similar things to me.
Yeah.
So initially, when you met your friend who had OCD, and only upon her announcing that she had OCD, did you think that there was anything peculiar about her behaviour, or you just thought she was just super tidy, or you didn't really think anything of it?
I didn't really think anything of it. When I was with her, there wasn't really any signs of it, really.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if it was her hiding it well and she's learned to control it. I just didn't know. Maybe I was young at the time and I didn't really understand until she said something, which was more later on. Obviously, people do cleaning, but then there's the OCD version of cleaning where
it's excessive.
It's not enough. So, it's excessive. So I've been with that, and then she said, "Oh yeah, my OCD," and I was like, "Oh, okay," and that was that, really. You know, so obviously now when we have conversations, it's just saying, "Yeah, I've got to clean that, got to do this, do that." Like, it's not a thing of where it bothers me. It's just normal for me for her to do that, and when I have conversations with yourself, it's just normal.
When you think about your friend, is one scenario, because you don't actually live with her and you don't share a space with her on a regular basis. It's a friendship. You see each other occasionally.
Yeah.
So how does that compare to being in a working environment? Because obviously we work side by side, very, very close. We interact on a different level, day in, day out. So how does that affect you, or how does that make you feel when you're working with someone? Because it's intriguing for me to understand how I'm perceived and how my actions affect other people. Because you don't knowingly know you're doing what you're doing unless someone says to you or identifies they're aware you do something a little bit different.
Right. We work well together, and I think obviously because I don't suffer with OCD, but we have similar personality. So it's like we work well, we gel well together. We kind of have the same mindsets with certain things, and it's like a mental connection as well, where you could have been thinking of the same thing and whatnot. But when it comes to your OCD, I don't know, again, I just let you get on with it. I know for me, where some people might find it strange. I'm a very quiet person.
Yeah.
So I'm not a person to always talk. Like, I can be in the same room with you, but I just don't need to talk to you, or I just don't have nothing to say, so I'll just get on with what I'm getting on with.
Yeah.
But when I see you get up and do what you're doing, as long as it's not affecting my work and whatever, I'm cool. And it hasn't. Like, you just do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's that. I haven't really had a problem. But I think because I've mentioned in the past about I suffer with diabetes and whatnot, it's like, you've got to understand about my illness.
Yeah.
So you kind of get a rough idea of how to deal with the situation. And I think it works the other way around with you with your OCD.
Yeah,
I know how
100%.
to work with you.
Yeah.
I do notice the controlling aspects of the OCD.
Okay.
Where it's got to be that way. But I think with some people who suffer with OCD, it's either their way or we're not doing it.
Yeah, so they don't have no gauge on how they do things. Yeah.
Yeah. So I see that control aspect sometimes, but I just kind of as I said, just let you get on with it. I feel as a person who has OCD to a non-OCD, there has to be, especially in a working environment, there has to be balance, and we do have the balance.
Yeah.
Because if you say this and you're determined it should be this way, but then I disagree, it's not you kind of control the narrative of, or hear what I'm saying and take that into consideration. And not
there's the level of respect is high. Yeah. Yeah.
And it works both ways. So this is where with me and you, we work well together. Yeah. Because there's things where you might not be competent at, and vice versa, but you may know more of a certain thing more than me. Yeah. And I let you deal with that because it's just your thing, and vice versa. But I think with both of us, we do want to help each other out. So we do want to show the other person how to do it, or this is how you should do it. Or try to do it. Try to. And it's not a thing of, well, I'm better than you or whatever. It's about learning from one another. Indeed. Because there'll be a time I might not be in the studio, and you might have to do certain things that I do that you're not confident as yet to do. Yeah. But you take your time and you have your own way to process, how am I going to do this? Yeah. So with me as a non-OCD and you who has OCD, and the conversations that we've had off air about your OCD, it's like I've got to learn about it more, and it's given me that time to how to deal with someone like yourself who has it. Mm-hmm. And I think you put yourself in a position where, okay, so this isn't my environment, so I can't say A, B, and C needs to be A, B, and C. It might be D, B, C or something. Yeah. But you've just kind of controlled that it's going to be this way. It might not be that way all the time, but for now it's that way.
So do you know a lot of people with OCD?
I don't. I think it's just two people, which is yourself and my friend. But I've seen documentaries on TV about OCD. I've seen the extreme side of OCD and just the lower part of OCD. And it was fascinating watching, because especially for those who have it extremely, and it's like they can't control it. I feel that they want to, but it's just too much, and they've just have to do either wash their hands how many times in an hour or something. Yeah. And
which is excessive.
Yeah.
They're saying that it's estimated that roughly 1.2% of the population in the UK actually have OCD. which is
Oh, no.
and like that's 12 out of 1,000 people
Wow.
is the equivalent. That's the estimated figure.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. And even more interesting, the fact that you only know 2 people
Yeah,
that have it.
right.
As for myself, I know quite a few people that have OCD, which is even more peculiar. Because for one,
Yeah.
I didn't identify myself of having OCD, but yet I'm surrounded by people who had or have OCD, which makes it even more interesting. For one, the fact that I didn't identify I had, but I just thought I was just super clean and just did things extreme.
Right.
And then to be around even more people that have it but don't identify them to have it because they just do what I do.
Right. So the people that you know who have it, when you're together at some point, how do you get on?
Oh, well, I find mine is I've learnt to actually control my OCD. When I say that is I've learned to understand I don't have control over every space that I'm in.
Right.
And that didn't just come like, oh, I wake up in the morning and, oh, okay, I haven't got control of it. It was a gradual thing. And I think the biggest change for me was moving from one place to another, changing home.
Right.
So what happened was I had my own space.
Yeah.
And I had full control of everything within that space.
Yeah.
Then I moved to a space where I didn't control fully, which meant that I had to tailor my OCD. Now, there's probably people would say, tailor your OCD, what do you mean? Well, I had to learn how to not be in control of everything that surrounded me. So I had to understand that I was in a space that I didn't fully control. As much as I may have a room, when I'm in that room, I can control that space. At any given time, if I was in another space, I was in control of that space. Now, if other people came into that space, the dynamics would change. Because now I'm in a space, a shared space, but because I'm now not on my own, I don't have full control.
Right.
So what that tended to do for me was it humbled me to the point where I would see things and I had to control my urge to go and fix it or move it or be in control of that situation. In hindsight, I was more or less forced to control my OCD because I never had control fully of my environment. So it's not something that everyone can possibly do. And I'm not going to announce that I was able to do it. I would have struggled, and I did struggle, because obviously to see something that needs moving, changing, adjusting, fixing, whatever it may be, and not to be able to do that is it's a restraint on somebody with OCD.
How did it make you feel when you can't do that?
You're pretty anxious because your body is telling you to go and fix what you can see. So you're urged to go and do what you do.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not in a position to do what you feel to do or want to do, it's almost as though you have to leave that area. So it kind of wipes your slate clear. So because you're not physically seeing it,
Right.
it can't affect you so much. But to sit in a room and see things that are in your eyes out of place can agitate somebody with OCD.
So how do you control that when you're out in public?
Now, with regards to being out in the public, I don't have control of those areas. So I'm out in the public, I'm in control of maybe my surrounding. Like if I was to draw a circle around myself, that's my boundary.
Right.
Anything outside of that, I have no control over. But if I'm in a vicinity or in a place where, give you an example, a supermarket. I go to a supermarket.
Yeah.
I'm going to get an item off the shelf. My thought process is I assess that area that I'm approaching with my hand, and I've scanned that and I've picked up all the things that are out of place straight away. Like, I'm going to go and buy some canned tomatoes, example.
Yeah.
As I'm approaching that, I am more or less scanning the whole vicinity as I'm approaching.
So that aisle, so you go along that aisle where the tin tomatoes are.
Mm-hmm.
You see, you're in that aisle and you can see the tomatoes from afar.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff you see beforehand there,
Mm-hmm.
are you urged to fix that? For example, a cup of soup, a vegetable cup of soup is in the chicken soup section.
Yeah, it would agitate me. It would agitate me.
Would you be urged to just put it back in its rightful place?
For me, because I've learnt to control my OCD, I have a slightly different view on it. Now, I don't control that space, but anything within the circle that I put around myself,
Right.
be it arm reach,
Yeah.
I'm in control of.
Right.
Anything outside of that, I have no control over. But I had to train, I had to get myself to that point. And that's to do with working in an office with numerous people being quite close to you. You see a lot of things, but you have no control over them. So you have to learn to deal with your anxieties, your wants and needs, because you're not in your space. So then what you find with yourself is like, you tend to not say a lot because you're anxious inside.
Yeah.
But you can't actually do what you need to do. So you're inside, you can get quite frustrated sometimes. Sometimes you'd have to leave the room. Well, I would have to leave the room. Or maybe shut my eyes.
Oh, so you don't actually see it anyway.
Yeah, so
it's there, but because you closed your eyes, it's not there.
Yeah, so what it would do for me is it'll blank out what I'm seeing, and then once I open my eyes, I can recompute in my head, okay, I need to get past this.
That's really interesting. So how long did it take you to actually control your OCD to know that, all right, I'm in a place where I can't control? How did you get to that position, like where you are now compared to like before?
Well, for me, it was a gradual thing. From going from having total control of a space to not having full control of a space is a big step for someone with OCD. So I think my move was my learning curve. Then what I could do once I had moved from my space to a shared space was adjust my thought process. And upon adjusting my thought process, my actions fell into place, which allowed me to cope better on the outside world. Because I didn't lose complete control, I just lost aspects of my control.
Yeah.
So me moving from somewhere that was I controlled to somewhere that I didn't control fully but still had control was just like baby steps for me. So then going out in the outside world, like for example going to the supermarket like I explained to you, or going to a shop and buying something, I still felt the need to tidy. I would do that thing where I'll see somewhere that needs tidying and pretend that I'm interested in that book or that item, so I'm able to tidy it.
So let me ask you a question. It might sound a bit silly, but do you get tired of being or having this OCD? What does it do to you mentally?
You're just a clean freak. That's the easiest way of actually putting it. You're just a clean freak. That's how I see it. I just like to clean and tidy and stuff like that. I think it's more the person without OCD who's surrounded by you that would see the struggle more than you with OCD, because most people who don't have OCD would just see you as, oh, you're just a busybody, you can't keep still, you're always cleaning, you're always tidying. They don't actually see that as a negative thing.
Yeah.
But the person with the OCD has the issue, but it's not seen in the right context. So as far as they're concerned, you're just tidy, or you're just fidgety, or you don't stop.
Yeah, because I find that interesting, as in you use the word fidgety and, you know, you just don't stop. Because with my friend, she doesn't really watch TV or can really sit down and watch a movie.
Okay.
She literally can't do that. She could just probably sit down for like 20 minutes maybe, and then she's got to do something.
Okay.
Like, you know, some people can just sit down and watch an hour or 45 minutes of a show or a film or something. But for others, they can't do that. Can you sit down or, for example, go to the cinema or a theatre and watch a play or a film?
I think because I have got my OCD under control, my outlook is completely different. I'm able to sit down and watch a film. I'm able to go to a theatre. I'm able to sit down for long durations of time and do things. My concentration level is quite good. I can't say that in my earlier years that was the same, but then I'm always been someone who kept myself very, very busy. So be it numerous jobs, be it selling Avon, selling clothes, even though I had a 9 to 5, I always had something else.
Right.
So to be quite honest, I probably always had the OCD, but I just managed it differently. There are different levels of OCD.
Yeah.
And as for me, I don't think mine is as bad as it used to be.
Right.
Simply because I have not got full control over the spaces that I'm in. So for me, it's probably been to my benefit that I haven't been able to be in spaces that I had full control over, because my OCD could have possibly got worse.
Yeah.
Because obviously the more confined to a space that I would be, the more control I would have. Having to share my space meant that I didn't have so much control, so therefore I had to gauge myself to fit into my environment.
So other people who are non-OCD, who you know,
Yes.
whether they're close friends or family, how do they cope with or deal with or handle knowing you as someone who has OCD?
Well, I've never actually said to anyone that I have. I may say in jest like, oh yeah, maybe it's my OCD. But I think you're the only person that I've actually said, you know, sat down and had a serious conversation and said, yeah, I've got OCD, yeah. And then, like, if you see me do this, it's my OCD. Yeah, and then I've kind of explained to you, like, certain things that would jar me, like something that's not straight, you know, positioning of things being out of place. Prime example is, like, we share a drawer, and you would tidy that drawer, and then I will go in the next day and tidy the same drawer.
Yeah, I feel that's because you have control. Or is that not the case?
I don't know. I think because we share the drawer, it's both of our space. So it's just dependent who gets to the drawer first. So you might tidy one day and I might tidy another day. But that's just us working together.
But then don't you feel like if it's, for example, it hasn't been touched, but then you go in and touch it, don't you feel that you've now got control of it now? And now that you've done it, you feel better?
To be honest, I don't feel the need to be in control when it comes to the drawer. Like I was explaining, like, so long as I do my tidy, I'm okay. I think that's the thing with me. I will go in a drawer and things will look out of place because that's me and the OCD. So no matter how much I go to the office and go in that drawer, I will always feel the need to tidy because that's part of my makeup.
I kind of understand it, but I'm of the mind of a non-OCD person.
Yeah.
Because my thing is, if it's tidy and we've gone for the night and we come back the next day, you've come in before me, what is there to tidy?
Yeah, but see, with someone with OCD, or with my OCD, should I say, alignment, sizes, different things like that affect me as well. Prime example is the fridge. I have terrible fridge OCD. Terrible. When I say terrible, I mean terrible. I can go in the fridge and I will scan the entire fridge. Once I open that door, I have scanned the entire fridge and I feel the need to tidy it. There could be a lemon that needs to be near vegetables. There could be drinks that are on a shelf where cooked food should be. There's chocolate bars that should be on the door when there shouldn't be. And I'm literally sitting here with my eyes closed and I can visualize the contents and where things are in the fridge. That's how bad my fridge OCD is.
So when you put away stuff in your fridge, and obviously you're not going to say, like, you're not going back in there for the night and you go in there the next day. So the next morning you get up and you do your normal and you come downstairs to your fridge.
Yeah.
Do you then start to fix things around?
My biggest thing is if somebody else is in the house.
Right, okay.
So it's not so bad if it's me. I will feel the need to tidy it because it will always look untidy to me. However,
Stop there. So with you saying that, you feel that it will be untidy, but say like you've been in the house by yourself.
Yeah.
You've put your fridge, you packed it away how you want it.
Yeah.
You haven't. I know about the alignments, and you probably have the label at the front so you can see what it is, all in a line at the sides or on the shelf or however you do it. So you've left it like that, but then you come back. No one hasn't been in the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, do you go in there and still try to tidy it, even though you've done it the night before?
Yes.
Why?
Because you just feel the need to tidy all the time. It's not something you're looking to do, but your eyes, you just feel the urge. Not necessarily the urge, just things never seem in place. You know, labels to jars or bottles being visual, turn so that you can see them without having to physically touch them.
Okay.
It's little things. Unless you have the mind of someone of OCD, some of this stuff sounds so like far-fetched.
Yeah, because I'm trying to get an understanding of, or maybe you haven't had that scenario because there's someone always at home, so things are always going to be moved. But I just wondering, even like if listeners out there, if you live alone with OCD, if you've put your shopping away in the fridge and you've put it how you want it and you've left it how it is, you haven't gone back in there, but then do you come back and do that? I'm just wondering if, someone else with OCD, is it a thing where you just have to always just go and move things around regardless of you've done it?
I guess everyone's different. That's an interesting question because somebody else with OCD may think that my OCD for the fridge is completely nuts. Because we may have the same things that we like to do, but some areas we may focus on more than others. I mean, OCD goes across the spectrum. I mean, when you think about wardrobes, when you're putting your clothes in your wardrobe, I've got a thing where things need to be in colour coordination.
So when you say the spectrum, is it like the spectrum of a rainbow, as in the dark colours? Then
that's correct.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's only when you actually conversate with people about this, which isn't something that I've really done. So I'm really opening up to the fact that, wow, I really do have major OCD.
But at the same time, you have learned over the years to control it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I think that's good for me because my character is quite strong. I know what I want. Like you were saying, I do have aspects of control because I'm accustomed to being in control of my surroundings. So, yes, I am controlling. People will see me as controlling, but I think my levels of control are not excessive, if you understand what I mean. They're bearable. However, I have met people who are controlling, never actually identified them as being OCD. But having this conversation with you now, I'm thinking there's a possibility people that are quite controlling do have aspects or levels of OCD.
So would you say, for the listeners out there right now listening to this show, would you recommend, because of how we've had our conversation, if someone who's recognised that they suffer with, or have, should I say, OCD, and maybe they might be feeling a bit of a way where they want to talk, but they don't know how to approach it to, whether it's their family or friends or work colleagues, would you suggest them having a conversation? And if so, how would they approach having that conversation?
Now, OCD isn't a problem unless you make it a problem. Now, those people that surround you will identify you as being different for one thing or another. Generally, being OCD isn't a bad thing.
Right.
You're just excessive in things that you do.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you angry. It doesn't make you, well, my levels. I can only talk about myself.
Yeah.
So I don't see it as a negative thing, but for the person with OCD, it can be negative because obviously they get frustrated by the fact that they're not able to do something.
Yeah.
So it's only affecting them mentally and probably physically because they're feeling restricted. So now somebody else around them doesn't see that because that's all going on in their head.
Oh.
And unless they express it through anger or frustration, that's the only way that you're going to know something's affected them.
This subject has been very enlightening. It's been informative. I feel that I've learned a lot more because obviously you have OCD, and I think going forward I could then maybe recognize other people who have it, who may have it more excessively, and be able to deal with that person according to how they are, and not necessarily telling that person, oh, you know, why don't you relax, why don't you chill out, why are you so fidgety, you know what I mean? Because I feel that some people can be a bit ignorant as well by throwing out those types of remarks, because I think it might be a little hurtful maybe, or frustrating for the person who suffers with OCD to hear that, and obviously probably hear that on a regular basis, like you just get fed up with it. As I was saying before, I've learned a lot more. I've learned actually having a conversation with you about it, getting to find out how it affects you on a daily basis, how it affects you in a space that you can't control, and you teaching yourself how to control the situation you're in, whether it's in a public space, as in maybe at work or at a friend's home or wherever, you know what I mean? So I commend you with that, because there may be other people who haven't been able to control it and probably don't even know where or how to start to do that.
Yeah, this is very true with regards to people's perception of people who have OCD. And I think most of the time they don't actually know that someone has OCD, because people don't necessarily say they have OCD unless they're in a conversation with somebody who's displaying similar things that they can relate to. So people will be ignorant, people will say unkind things because it's their lack of knowledge or understanding. But the only thing we can do is be mindful that people are different. Just because they may not physically look a certain way doesn't mean that there isn't something wrong. You know, when people do things, we can't be judgmental and make, like as you said, make statements or make remarks and then later regret saying what they've said because of ignorance.
Right.
So I think it is key that we are open-minded, have a level of understanding, and try to display certain behaviours which are pleasant as opposed to things that can be hurtful. Because even though some people may say things in jest or may say something that they don't feel was untoward, you don't know how it's affecting any person, and that's with any disorder.
That's right.
Or anything that could be going on in their mind.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that you're respectful of people and your environment. It's as simple as that.
Very true.
If you want more information on OCD, you can go to www.ocduk.org. If you wish to connect with me, you can connect with me on all the social media platforms. TalksHonest. It's been a pleasure. Good night and God bless.
What if we spoke honestly? 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 In the name of love, you taught me well. My heart bleeds as you hesitate on words and choke. I feel it all, each your muscles gathering at my feet, entangled. No one soon to slip and meet. Truth the past dragged upon me sinks into chest. No need to